going on, everybody? It's your host, Jay, and I'm with my good friend, Brigette Heller. Before I introduce her to you guys, I just want to let you all know that I actually came across her profile during one of 10X's Unbreakable Business Challenge, and they had a homework, I think it was day one or day two, to basically just point and shoot, and talk about her signature talk. And she had a great segment, and I think Bridget is. Well, she probably talk about it here, but she won She was one of the winners as well on there, and which is pretty amazing. And then ever since then, I started following you, Bridget, and then I started, just seeing your venture, and just, as a viewer, somebody who's a fan of you. Basically, I've seen what you've been doing. It's amazing, and I'm so blessed to have you here on the show, for you taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me and our viewers. But other than that, Bridget, I just want to say thanks again, and the floor is yours. Could you please introduce yourself and kind of talk about what your background is?
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on. This is fun.
Awesome. Yeah.
This is my favorite place to be, is having great conversations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay, so where did I start? I always never know where to start when people ask that,
Yeah.
because I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've had some kind of business of some kind
Yeah.
since I was 14.
Wow.
My
Okay.
dad was a business owner, and he pulled us right into his business. I was cold calling schools. It was a transportation software.
Yeah. Wow.
It's funny the niches that people serve, but I
Yeah.
was calling superintendents at the age of 14 and saying,
Wow.
"Hey, I have this product. Do you want to learn more about it?" And
That's so cool.
right, so great training for me.
Early.
And then my mom said, "Hey, Brigette," because I play the piano, "I have these students and I can't help them. I don't have enough spaces, so you're going to teach them now." So my kids
Wow.
are like, I had these kids as a kid that I'm
Yeah.
teaching piano. So
Already.
my parents
Yeah.
were great at throwing us in
I love
early.
that.
Yeah. And from there, I mean, at 17, I graduated early. I started an event planning business. I had a hair cart with like these clip-on things in the mall. And that
Yeah.
was in 2 different states with like 3 teams. So when my
How?
husband met me, I was
Wait. So
18.
you were 18 when you started this?
Yeah.
First of all, that's amazing. Not many people would go that route, but I always say, entrepreneurship, you got to take risks, and I love that you started early, and I do also love that your parents got you started early. I
Yeah.
wish I had my parents who were business owners and entrepreneurs, but they're your typical working for a company 9 to 5, and that's what I was taught growing up. Go to
Mhm.
college and find a good job and save up and stuff like that, but we'll kind of talk more about that later. But yeah, so 18 years old, you started that, and then you were saying your husband, or at that time obviously, like, maybe boyfriend, how did you guys meet?
Oh, we met at a random dance. He was like a church dance. He
Oh, I
was
see.
working in the Bay Area, and I was visiting friends in his hometown, and we happened to
Hmm.
just meet at this dance. And he's very feisty. I'm very feisty. We're both the firstborn.
Yeah.
And there was something about that kind of clash that was like, oh, this is different. So I jump in all in on things when I like them, and he
Yeah.
does too. So that meant that we dated. This is wild. We dated 2.5 weeks, got engaged.
Wow.
We were engaged for 2.5 months and got married, and now it's been 22 years. And this week,
That
22 years.
That is so amazing.
Yeah.
22 years, and that's, I mean, with a society, and obviously the marriage, failure rate is pretty high, right? But that, first of all, I commend you guys for being together for so long. It seems like forever, and only being married, like, you were engaged for 2.5 months, like, since being together, and that, typically, I'm gonna be honest, that's probably a failure, or a recipe for disaster. But how
Yeah.
did, I mean, obviously God is, they always, I've read this before, like, to get married, it requires 2 people, but to keep it requires 3, and the third one is God.
Mhm.
So, but definitely, I mean, like, that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
kudos to you. And so
Thank you.
did, So, I mean, you guys have been together. I'm sure you obviously built a family together. And how many
Yeah.
do you guys have? Any kids, dogs, pets?
We we got a circus going on up in here. We got 3 kids, and 2 of
Yeah.
them are already graduated from high school and moving on in life. So I just have one at home, but then I have 3 dogs. And so it
Wait,
gets a little, oh my gosh.
you have kids
Yeah.
that are out of high school? You look so young.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
they're
My
all gone.
oldest is married. Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool. Like I said, you get. I don't think I met. Well, I don't know if you really post a lot about your husband. Sometimes family time is
Mhm.
personal. So, I'm the same way. I don't typically talk about my family and all that stuff in my channels often. I just because I wanted to kind of leave that private. But I mean, in your case, um, so it's just you two now with the dogs, the pets, right?
And we
Um,
have one at home. We have one who's in high school.
Oh, still
Yeah.
gotcha. So you got
Yeah.
3? Okay, very cool,
Yeah.
very cool. I have 2 kids. I wanted a third one, but we'll see how that goes later. But just kind of going back into entrepreneurship. But thanks for sharing your personal story about that. But yeah, please continue on.
Oh, entrepreneurship. So I had these businesses. I actually, back in the day, hustle culture,
Mhm.
you talk about hustle culture and like get it
Yeah,
done. I was very into like I understand that method. And so we decided to open a wedding planning business, me and my
cool.
husband, in a mall actually.
Wow.
And so we're opening this wedding planning business and doing the store, just so many details that go into creating this new business. And
Yeah.
I was sick. I was so sick. And I gotta go to the hospital. I'm so
Mm.
sick. And then it dawned on us we were married and that maybe I was pregnant. So
Mm.
I ended up, I was sick not from opening the store, but because I was pregnant.
Going through
And
pregnancy.
so that was a short lived business because basically I was a wedding planner through that pregnancy and just, I wanted to be home
Right.
with the kids. So from there, it started a different entrepreneur journey of what could I do from home? What could I do? He was traveling a ton
Mm-hmm.
with his job. And so what could I do that kind of created that foundation for our kids?
Yeah.
So I did a lot of things where, I taught piano. I had 30 students at one
Wow.
time, and I would join nonprofits and work for nonprofits because then I knew I was part of a cause. Or I would make cakes. At one point, I made cakes. I've made baby tutus. You name it. It was like, what could I do? What's around me that's interesting? I will do that and bring in income because
Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
like it. It's fun for
Yeah.
me,
And it keeps you
right?
busy, right? Being at
Mm-hmm.
home, and that's really really cool. So you've always done some kind of entrepreneurship route, but
Mm-hmm.
um definitely kind of fast forward to uh,
Strong and capable.
yeah,
Yep.
now, right? So what is your current business? And basically, obviously I want to talk about you podcasting as well, and all that stuff, because you've had, like I mentioned offline, like you told me, like I knew you had over 100 episodes recorded, so
Mm-hmm.
that took a lot of time, obviously. And then obviously you're currently at 107 episodes, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about your current business now. Like, what do you do?
So the strong and capable is all about, here's the deal. Life is hard and it's
Yes.
messy.
Yes.
And like you mentioned, you get married, but then maybe it falls apart. You have
Hmm.
this kid and this dream, but then maybe it falls apart. You're in a career for 20 years, and then all of a sudden you're just not. And you
You're right.
feel like, who am I? Where am I going? So life is hard. Life happens. And the strong and capable is about creating a resilient mindset, emotional health, and spiritual health so that
I love
you
it.
don't have to feel weak. Because when you go through hard things, you
Yes.
feel weak. You feel
Hmm.
taken out, cut out
Right.
at the knees.
Yeah.
And so the strong and capable is like, how can we build this person into the person you want to be? Because right now you're not. So how can we do that?
I love it.
And that's what I do. I get to work with companies, with men and women. I have communities I build. I do events. And it's all
Wow.
about strengthening the individual so that they can go out and impact the world for good. I love it.
That's pretty cool. And how many years have you been doing this?
So strong and capable, we're going on year 3
Wow.
from
Nice.
its like very, very humble beginnings. And It started because, so 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I lost my sister.
Okay.
And my
Sorry.
sister and me were, thank you, we're very, very close. We're 18 months apart. She had
Mm.
cerebral palsy and was deaf. So it was kind of a unique friendship because she
Yeah.
couldn't walk, couldn't talk. But,
Yeah.
you hear this thing about twins where they just speak to each other and
Mm-hmm.
understand each other. That's how we were. I just knew. I knew when she was upset. I knew when she was happy. I
Oh.
used to take her to show and tell at school. I mean, my best friend, I thought she was the coolest human on earth.
Oh.
And
Yeah. It's awesome.
10 years ago on Christmas, we got a phone call that she had aspirated and was not doing well. Her care center said, hey, you need to come. We were taking her to the emergency room. And so my whole family, oldest of 7, is wild. It's, again, circus. We rushed up there to be with her. And for 2 weeks, I sat by her side while she deteriorated.
Mm.
And her body just slowly shut down. It was the hardest 2 weeks of my life. Because
Yeah.
this is the person, I mean, she's a part of me. I am who I am because of her in so many ways. And I felt like I was just losing myself day by day by day.
Yeah. I can relate to that.
And so at the end, and that is how it is. When you go through hard stuff, when you go through these life changes, it's like you feel a piece of yourself just slipping away.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm sitting with her at the end, and she started to get scared, and that freaked me out because I am religious and I have beliefs, and so why was she scared? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this thought of, she's not scared of what's next. She's scared of leaving you
Oh,
and what that will do to you.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to offer her comfort. And I said, Aubrey, you are strong and capable. You can do this. I love you. I will always love you. It's okay to let go. And they just kept saying that again and again, probably as much for me as for her. Aubrey, you are strong and capable. I love you. I will always love you. It's okay to let go. It's okay to let go. Until she took her last breath.
Wow. And that's kind of how it sparked up this new business that you...
So how it sparked was I spiraled into the deepest depression of my life. I am a very much, look, it's all cloudy, but there's this one ray of light. Look at it. I love sparkle. I love light. I love seeking good and in all things. I feel like there's good in every situation, and even the hard ones, because we learn from them. And but after this, I could not find, there was no good for me. I was in such a deep depression, and spiritually lost, mentally lost, emotionally confused, that I didn't care. And I was actually in church one day, and the preacher was preaching, and I remember looking at him and saying, I do not care. Whatever you say, I don't care, because I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm even alive, and I'm ready to let go. I was so at peace with being done with this life. And in that moment that I was totally heart at peace with, like, just letting go, I felt my sister's hands on my shoulders, and I heard her say to me, Brigette, you are strong and capable. I love you. I will always love you. Get up and go to work.
Wow.
And she said it 3 times, and I'm bawling. I'm bawling and looking around like, did nobody else hear this? But then I had to figure out, well, what does that even mean to get up and go to work? What does that mean? And in years of research and crawling out of this hole of darkness, I found that it's 3 things. It's knowing who you are. You have to know who you are emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. You need to be so radically honest with yourself. You know exactly who you are, good and bad. Love it regardless. You have to know where you're going. You have to hold a vision of what this life is for you and what you want to do with it. And then even what happens after this life. You need to know. What does that look like? You have to know where you're going. You have to have vision. And then the third thing is you have to have a plan for how to get there. Because knowing who you are and where you're going isn't enough without a plan. Because we are, as humans, we got to have progress. We need to know that our choices matter and that we impact those around us. And I think one of the things we're seeing in our culture that's the most dangerous right now is people are so involved with self-care, laying on a beach, that they're not impacting others. And then they're not happy and they don't know why. And it's because they're not making those connections, the
Right.
connections that teach us, that deepen relationships, that help us grow. And without connections, we get lost.
Yeah.
And so those are the
That's
three
true.
things that the strong and capable is built on. And it came
That's
from
so
that
awesome.
time of not knowing.
That is actually amazing that how this, sparked up, your current business and you helping others, serving others and sharing your stories. And that's truly, truly inspiring to me. And actually I can relate, as I mentioned, my brother also passed about 12 years ago, out of the blue, and he had a brain aneurysm, and then for about 7 days, unfortunately, he was in a coma, and slowly just ended up having to go, right. And so that was difficult, and he was my older brother. I obviously looked up to him, and yeah, just all of a sudden, they're gone. But throughout that time, my mom, myself, and my sister, and then my time also, I'm in the Navy, or I was in the Navy at the time, and so just going through everything, also experienced depression, right? Something so difficult like that, and a combination of different things. I'm actually very open talking about my mental health because I think it's very important. Um, and when I was in the military, I hid it because I was a leader. And obviously, if unfortunately in the military, like, you're looked upon as somebody that's strong, that's there to fix every if you're in a leadership position, to make sure you're like the like the role model image of your command, or whatever department you're in. So I definitely hid that. But once I was done, I'm like, you know what, I think it's important to share this to others, because a lot of people battle mental health silently, and I did. But so I just want to say thanks for being open about that, and which in return you turned that into something great, to doing what you're doing now. So that's pretty cool.
Well, thank you. And the strong and capable, for me, one of our pillars that we're built on
Mm-hmm.
is redefining strength. Because, like
Yeah.
you just so beautifully outlined, there are so many cultures
Yeah.
that, whether it's military or it's a church or a family culture, where, hurting is weak.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
hurting isn't weak. And I
Right.
actually tell my kids all the time, when you are deeply hurting, when you're mourning something, when you're feeling that heaviness,
Yeah.
that is a show of your passion and your
Mm-hmm.
capacity to love.
Yeah.
It is not weak at all. It actually, you can't feel intense love without feeling intense hurt.
Right.
You don't know the spectrum until you've experienced it.
Oh, I
And
love it.
so redefining strength, that sometimes you pause because you understand I've hit my limit. And
Yeah.
if I pause for 2 days and rest, then I can go even further.
Yes.
But if I just push, I'm going to burn out.
Right.
So strength, I really believe, needs redefined. Pushing through, shoving through,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't serve anyone long term.
That's true. Yeah. I love that you mentioned that. And so with currently, so it's about 3 years now that you've been in operation. And how do you ideally find, going back into business and entrepreneurship, how do you ideally find your ideal avatar, the people that you want to serve?
So I think this is one of the hardest things for business people in general. Like, if
Yeah.
you entrepreneurs, especially early entrepreneurs,
Yes.
is like, you want to help everybody.
Right.
And that's hard. And what I've learned from me, because we talk about niching down,
Right.
I learned that there's a certain emotional profile that I'm looking for, more than like, I serve insurance agents.
Right.
That there's an emotional profile I'm looking for. And so that was helpful. And then also, you start where you can help the most, right? There's two ways to start. Either you start with the group that you can help the most. And I know exactly who those women are, because I work with them in my Queen Circle every day and I love them. Or you start with the thing that you can do, that you can help, but makes you the most money. And there's kind of like two pathways.
You're right.
And most of us, most of us choose the one that like we think will fill our heart and soul and give us purpose. At least women entrepreneurs, or those of us who are a little more woo woo in this space too.
Right.
But my mentor is Danelle Delgado, and she is like, no, you go for the one that you know you can serve well and that you can make the money, because once you do that, then you can pour into all that other group. So
Makes
when
sense.
you talk about like, where are we now? So the people that we serve people who are, like I said, lost and rediscovering self.
Yeah.
That's a lot of mindset work. And I create retreats and communities for those people. But then when you talk about who are the people that we can get results quickly for, and that's really exciting in a business world, mostly teachers and doctors and nurses, because these are people who have also gone through so much.
Yeah.
And so we're teaching emotional resilience and communication.
I see.
And if you have those two things locked in, it changes everything.
That is super cool. Everything. That's super cool. So you hold retreats. How often do you do that per year?
Well, we just started doing retreats this year, actually.
Okay.
Because I was not ready just yet. Because I know for me as an event planner, I go all in on that. And every detail of it, emotion. What are you smelling? What are you hearing? I'm really intense about it. But next year we have four retreats planned.
Super cool. So, and could you share, are you in the West Coast or in the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm in the West Coast, Arizona.
Nice. Very, very cool. Yeah. I actually go there to Scottsdale usually every other month for business workshops with Cardin Ventures, which is
I was
located
going to say,
there.
I mean, the 10X group's always here. Grant's always here.
Right. And super cool. So are you holding your retreats in the West Coast, or are you trying to kind of mix it up a little bit? Overseas, maybe?
We're mixing it up.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not overseas yet. I think that'll be 2025. But in 2024, we're going to Alaska.
Nice.
We're doing a Disneyland one. I actually host one for my Queen Circle ambassadors. Those are the leaders within my circle. I host one at my house every year. And then we do virtual retreats as well.
Very, very cool. So, that's amazing. That's amazing. As part of my coaching program, obviously I've just recently gotten certified, so I don't have any like in-person stuff yet, but I am planning hopefully next year to hold masterminds, small ones, start small and keep it intimate. And certainly like find places to where it's kind of, amazing to just have fun and then learn as well. So that's in my horizon. But so in regards to when you got started podcasting, I mentioned, you've already had 107 episodes. So that requires a lot of dedication. And I've only recorded about 13 episodes so far, and it's been amazing and fun. But obviously there's a lot of podcasters that fail, and try not to be that, right? To quit and give up, because initially when you start, posting, right, most likely no one's going to be watching it. But how did you overcome some of those early challenges that you've had when you first launched your podcast?
Oh, so many things I could say. So actually podcast coaching is something I do, and I love doing it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a simplifier. So one of the things I like to say, I'm not a life coach, I'm a life strategist, because I want a clear strategy of how we're working through this moment. And podcasting is how I approach that too. There's so much you could do with a podcast. There's so many ways you could go with it. So what is the easiest way? And then I realized quickly that people needed that. But when I started podcasting, it was actually, I was taking a business class, and the teacher, she was like, "You're going to start a podcast." I was like, I am not going to start a podcast. I do not like the sound of my voice. I will say embarrassing things and never have any friends, and no one will be able to say my name. So I'm not starting a podcast. And actually my husband, he said, "Brigette, you want to help people. You want to help people understand who they are and love themselves and find joy in the journey and all these things." And we talk about like, hey, podcasting is perfect for you.
Yeah. So, I can see why.
Yeah. So with his encouragement, I started in my closet. So here's the thing for anyone thinking about starting a podcast. If you make more than 7 episodes, you are ahead of 2/3 of the people who start a podcast. There
Wow.
are so many people that start and go inactive after 7 because it's a lot of work.
A lot, yeah.
But it's a lot of work. So most podcasts, like 2/3 of them, I'd have to look at the current numbers, don't even go after 7 episodes. So if you make it to 10, you're more successful than so many people out there. So, right? You've already done that. So good job.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then the other thing is you don't have to have fancy equipment. The microphone in your phone is actually a pretty nice microphone.
It is. Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah. So my first podcast literally were recorded in my closet because that's a great sound buffer. All those clothes around you. Yeah. On my phone, like sitting there in the corner with my shoes and dresses around me, just sharing my little heart. And podcasting is best when it's conversation like what we're doing. Right. But when you have a very clear, here is the struggle and let me give you some tips to overcome it. Like, here's the problem. Here's how you can overcome it. And I think those are some of my favorite formats, or storytelling, which is usually why we like conversations.
Right. I love storytelling.
And that's why crime podcasts are so huge, right? Because they're stories and we love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was sitting in my closet with the podcast, and this sign behind me, it says Walk Sacred.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was sitting there and I'm like recording and deleting and recording and deleting and recording and deleting over and over and over again. And I'm like, this is so stupid. I feel like I'm supposed to do this,
right.
but I am so scared. Yes. I am so scared. And I, once again, threw my hands up in the air and I maybe yelled at God because that's what I do when I get frustrated. And the answer that came back, the thought that hit my mind so strong was, Brigette, switch the 2 letters. You said you're scared, SCARED. Switch it to sacred, SCRED.
Right.
Because when you are scared and you choose to step forward anyway, you are stepping onto transformational ground, and transformation is sacred. Yes. That changed everything. That moment changed everything. Because now I knew every time my heart started racing that I was stepping onto a part of my life that was going to transform me.
Wow.
And that's what it's all about.
That's pretty cool. So, yeah.
It is cool, right?
Yeah, very, yeah.
So here we are, 100 episodes and podcasting. I told you before we started, I have built the coolest circle of friends, of contacts, because it's like, who would I want to have a conversation with? Who could I have a conversation with? That's what you're doing, right? Who would be fun to have a conversation with? And you reach out to them and they say yes, because you're spreading their message. So why wouldn't they say yes?
Right, right. No,
and then you become friends, and it's cool.
And so you, from podcasting alone, obviously you built your circle, your group, which is my follow-on question as well. Is did you kind of combine it with like a private like Facebook group or some kind of like social network that you guys are in, or how do you have your community? Like, is it through just like, could you explain that?
Yeah, actually, I'm in transition once again. This is the evolution of business.
Yeah.
But I started a private Facebook page for the podcast, and it grew pretty fast, several hundred over just a couple months. I had 1,000 downloads my first month. So things were moving pretty quick. Yeah, it was exciting. But I have found that as an entrepreneur, you have to really decide where your energy can go.
Right.
Especially if you're a solo entrepreneur. You're doing everything. You're doing content creation. You're doing editing. Every hat.
Everything. Yeah.
I have website design, all of it. You're doing all the things.
Yeah.
And so I learned from me, and I've started to notice from a lot of my mentors that less is more. And so I've actually kind of let that group go. And my private Facebook page, which is now a public one, has become the place where people gather. And then my Instagram is the place where people gather. And then from there, of course, creating specific, like you said, masterminds or communities where then we're really digging in with them.
Yeah.
But that has been, I did start with it and now I'm letting it go because it's just too much.
Yeah.
Too much.
No, understood. But that's awesome. And, for me, I built my network with a lot of entrepreneurs now because of the the investment I've done attending different
Mhm.
masterminds, business workshops, and all of those things. I even attended content creation conferences and all that, so I could learn and meet others. And
Mhm.
I didn't start creating content until about a year ago, like literally a year, like last October 2022, when I made a commitment to say I'm going to start creating content every single day, and just short form on literally
Mhm.
just Instagram, and then just kind of grew from there. And now I'm kind of venturing out in other fields.
Mhm.
With obviously with podcasts is my next big thing that I'm gonna try to leverage as well, and meeting new people. As you already know, your network is your net worth, and you know building my circle is going to be very important to me as well, especially in my business also.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And I remember I watched one of your episodes. It wasn't too long, like it wasn't like a few episodes ago, I think, when you talked about your husband being your number one supporter, and like still today he watches your episodes. How amazing is
Yep.
that? Like I feel like
Well, he's
it's,
also my
yeah.
number one critiquer.
Yeah, I mean that's good though, right? Like
Yeah, it is good.
I that's one of the reasons why I hired, like, for a coach or a mentor. I like them to be upfront with me, because they're
Yes.
to help me out, right? Obviously we have a lot of
Yeah.
friends who just covers things up and just say, hey, no, you're doing fine and all that, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. But for me, I guess me a military background, I just like the like being upfront and transparent. So
Yeah. Everyone needs someone who's going to be honest with them. Because there'll be a lot of people say, "Oh, it's so good," but they're not going to give you feedback. They're scared it's going to hurt your feelings
right.
or ruin the relationship you have with them. But that person who will say, "Actually, your sound kind of sucks," or "Do you know you laugh when you feel awkward?" Or which I did my whole first season. I also think if anyone's going into podcasting, I actually recommend for my clients, edit yourself the first season. And the reason is because you will. I have, like you, I have paid so much money to get in the rooms, to get
Yeah,
the training, to
right.
be with the people. But what I have learned most from, aside from all those great foundational teachings, was editing my own podcast.
Yeah,
That I did laugh when I felt awkward. That girls tend to say, a lot because they don't want to be a burden and over explain. So they
right.
use the filler word, and then we don't actually know at all what they're talking
Right,
about. It's more
right.
confusing. So, and actually professional speakers, they don't do as much. They do triplets. I, da 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 da, because they're using that as their pause now.
I
So
see.
editing taught me a lot about myself, but also in watching other people and editing them, I was catching things that, whoa, okay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
That does not, because some of these people are so crazy intelligent,
right,
but their words, they don't look intelligent. They don't sound intelligent. And so the audience is not going to appreciate the depth of their knowledge. So, yeah, editing myself was
helped
the
out.
best thing I ever did.
It
Mm-hmm.
definitely helped. You said it helped you out a lot. For me, when I get nervous, because I'm not very comfortable in front of the camera, but I know it's important to leverage social media and putting yourself out there, right? Especially as a entrepreneur. My biggest issue is, which I'm still gonna need to work on, is saying ums. When I get nervous, if I don't have a specific I'd say script, I'll always say that filler word, and I need to work
Yeah.
on that for sure.
It's really normal. It doesn't mean you're a bad human. Can I give you a tip then on if you're
Please.
uncomfortable on camera? Because when I first started practicing, this is crazy, 3 years ago when Strong and Capable started, before I would do any video, even if it was just a little Instagram stories, I
Yeah.
would cry before and after. Took so much emotional, like, I can do this. I was so scared. I was so scared that I cried before
Yeah.
and after. And now I'm like, that's so cute. I said, too. Check that out.
You're
Look at your
very.
camera,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the one thing that I see all the time as I'm working with people. they look at themselves, and that makes you more
Right.
nervous because you're critiquing,
You
oh, I just raised my eyebrow weird, or I shrugged, or oh, that hair, what am I doing? Or you're seeing the cat wander across behind you. Nobody cares about that. They
right.
care about the message that
That
you're
message,
giving
yeah.
them, and are you making their life better in some way? Are you educating them in some way? Are you helping them laugh, relieving the pressure? So look in the camera, have a real conversation with that person. And in my social media, you might even notice I've switched it. I don't say you guys or hey friends. I say hey friend, because I
Mm,
am reaching the one.
let's
And if
see.
I can reach one person that day, that's what matters. I want to make a real connection with them. And so look at
Wow.
the camera and think about one person, speak to that person. Because if you're not helping anybody, what are you doing?
Right.
So just speak
Wow.
to one and it will grow.
I love that. That's a great advice. And I mean, personally, what I've seen, Brigette, I corrected myself because I was like, is it
You're
Bridget
good.
or I heard you
It's
say Brigette.
Brigette.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty. Yeah. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. But I I've seen a lot of your like short form content, and obviously when I first saw your signature talk, it was so crystal clear. Your message, your tone of voice, the way how like your conviction, how confident you were. I thought that you had a lot of years and years and years of like experience, like being in front of the camera, being in front of people live, and all that. Did you never
Nope.
had professional experience, and
Nope.
everything is self taught and so like learning on
Uh-huh.
your as you did it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah. I
thought you
actually
were a
went to the
true professional like speaker.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been hard earned. It's taken a lot of hours, right? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours.
That's awesome.
I actually competed in the Great American Speak Off season 1,
Oh,
and
you
I got
did?
through to the semifinals. Yeah, I did.
That
Hmm.
is super cool.
Yeah,
I
it
saw
was
that
amazing.
during, yeah, it was. I don't think I'll have the guts to do something like that. Maybe a year or two from now, maybe I'll revisit that. But I thought that we were at GrowthCon. I was there live, and it was so amazing to see those people speak out their message, and having that stage presence. And I could definitely see you as being a part of that. And you said you got to the
Thank you.
semifinals as well.
Yeah, yeah, I got to the semifinals. So went out to Miami with all the film crews and Jimmy being there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was wild. Because they put you through 1 to 2 minutes
Yeah.
every time, and every room was something different. There's
Wow.
high energy because there's all these competitors there that are there to show up. They're not, there it's intense.
Right. Right.
But I did have a camera guy. He stopped me and he thought I had gotten through to the top 12, and I told him, I said, no,
Wow.
I didn't. And he said, how, you're so good on camera.
Right.
I said, thank you. But again, practice. We really, the difference in success and not is habits and practice.
Mm-mm.
Really, that's it.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And I was gonna say, like, obviously, Pete Vargas and what they do and help people, be craft their signature talk, and be comfortable in front of people on stages and all that stuff. And I'm actually going to be attending one of the 10x stages event that they having in either Colorado or in somewhere in Arizona. I forget, but I'm actually excited.
It's really good. They do a really good job.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to actually see that in person and learn, and maybe I can apply it for the next America's Next Speak Off, because I know they do
Yeah.
weekly, or is it monthly, where they hold. I know Pete goes live sometimes.
Yeah. I think they kind of do it in waves. That's how they did
Mm-hmm.
it season 1. They did all these in-person locations and then they did a virtual location. So
Yeah,
I think they're wrapping up season 2 as far as the
already.
locations right now.
Are you gonna try again? And
So this is interesting. I actually did try on the virtual and I did not get in. And it was an interesting moment because I'm so
it's
much more confident this time than I was last time. I
yeah,
understand my message and even clearer than I ever have. And the coolest part for me personally was I didn't get through. but I was totally at peace with it.
Right.
It's like, if it was meant to be, Grant Cardone, I will never forget. I will never forget this. It changed my life. For those of us who didn't get through the top 12, Grant Cardone came out and talked to us. And it was just
Wow.
us, like 100 of us at this point that had gone through this really intense process but didn't make it. And he stood there and he said, you know what? I have had a lot of people turn me down. A lot of people say no.
Right.
He said, you know what I do? I say next. And then he stepped over and he used his hands like this. He said, and then someone else turns me down. You know, I say next. And then someone else turns me. I say next. And he did that probably 15 times. Next, next, next. But there was something about seeing him who is so wildly successful.
Right.
Understand that a no means absolutely nothing. It just means don't go that direction, switch directions.
Absolutely.
It was like, oh, I knew that on a lot of levels, but I needed that from him that day.
Right.
So
And
it's a next now.
Yes.
That's what I hear in my head. I hear him saying next when things don't work out.
That's good. Because as you know, entrepreneurship, at some point, you're going to come across obstacles and barriers, failures, right? And I think it's just part of the journey. And, one of my biggest beliefs is that as long as we never quit, we're truly not going to fail. So you just got to keep on going,
Agreed.
learn from that, that experience and move on and be a better version of you, as you move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool to hear, big names like Grant, that even as successful as he is now, he experienced a lot of failures and a lot of people saying no to him. And I guess that's just part of it, as an entrepreneur.
It is part of it. And also, it's because it's such a learning journey. There's a lot of times you think you're ready for something and you're not. But by the time you get to where it happens, where it comes together, you are ready if you keep going. Because along the way, you're picking up even more tools, whether it's about how to use your voice or be on camera or how to do stinking taxes or whatever it is, you're picking up all these little tools and tips along the way. And so then when you get to the place where you're really, really impacting, really having your dreams, quote unquote, happen, you're ready for it. Where you thought you were ready a year ago. I've had that happen so many times where things finally click all together and I'm like, oh, I was not ready a year ago. I thought I was, but I wasn't. Wow. And if I'd given up, I wouldn't have got to this moment.
Right.
And now I know I am ready. So you've got to keep going because you'll get there. And when you get there, it will feel right. It's like a piece of you clicks into place and it's amazing.
I love that. I was going to ask you, we're having this conversation. It's been great learning from you. I'm picking up a lot of things that I'm going to start implementing, moving forward because of your advice. So thank you so much. And looking at the time, it's been a great conversation. And I'm like, all right, I want to ask you two more valuable questions before we go. And obviously I want people to find where you're at and which, platforms you're in where people can reach out to you and find you. But last question before I ask where people could find you is, if you are speaking to somebody right now who's tired of working, W-2 and have been kind of eyeing entrepreneurship, what would be your advice to somebody who's watching this that want to, or maybe has been on the fence about being an entrepreneur?
Define who you are, where you're going, and how you're going to get there, right? Those three things that I said you have to know in your life, you have to know in your business. So really define those out and then start to test the waters, because there's so many of us entrepreneurs, especially those of us who like to do all the things, that we're like, this is going to change the world. I know this is it. And then the people aren't buying it. They're like, I don't need that. So before you quit your job, this is one of the things I actually did that I regret. I quit my job and then went all in. And it's caused me to always feel like I'm running behind. Because my personal life, it's been harder. And so there's sometimes you've got to burn the ships and do the thing. What I'm hearing from some of my favorite mentors the last few years is don't burn the ships. Build your foundation so that when you burn the ship, you can take off. So that would be my best, honestly, Who are you in your business? Where do you want to go? And what are your steps to get there? Make a plan and then go test the waters. And as soon as people are grabbing it and you're flying, guess what? That day that you walk out of this W2 world will be the best day. And you will do it with victory riding on your wings, right? You're going to be already victorious and you're only going to fly from there because now you're going to have more time and more energy. But make sure that your foundation is solid before you jump. Other words, what I see right now, especially in the coaching world, is they make the jump and then they end up going right back to work and they feel like a bigger failure. And you don't want that to be your story.
Wow.
You don't want that.
Such a powerful message and advice. So thank you, Brigette. And that's amazing. I know I'm going to take a short form content of just that whole clip right there that I'd love to share on my IG and TikTok and Facebook. Last question. Where would our viewers find you in social media in case they want to reach out to you, ask for advice, and, obviously to work with you as a coach?
Yeah, you can find me so many places, but really Facebook and Instagram, it's Brigette, Brigette Heller, Heller. And of course, the website, www.thestrongandcapable.com. And if you want to email me, I'm always down for that. And it's just my first name, Brigette, at thestrongandcapable.com. So I'm pretty easy to find.
That's awesome. And again, I've been following you for quite some time now, and I do enjoy it. You're a breath of fresh air, and I'm so thankful to have you here on the show, Brigette. And you've been amazing. You've provided some great value add content to our viewers, and I'm very grateful to have you. And for our viewers right now who are watching, maybe this is the first time you've seen this episode. If you liked and seen this video, this episode, and you found value in there, I'd love for you to follow me in my journey in this new podcasting world where I'm going to interview people like Brigette as entrepreneurs, content creators, and share our experiences, failures, and our success stories as well. So nonetheless, if you guys enjoyed this, please like, follow, and subscribe. Until then, we'll see you soon. Take care.